vegetables and local meat. And
hello, welcome to Be Live. My name is Susan Fleischmann. I'm the Executive Director of Cambridge Community Television, and I do a show called Not for Nothing. I interview executive directors of various nonprofits in Cambridge, but today we have a special panel to talk about something that's really, really critical that's going on in Cambridge right now, and that's the destruction of the silver maple forest. I have on my right, your left, Quinton Zondervan and my good friend Rozann Kraus, who have been very involved in trying to get the powers that be, who have some control over whether this happens or not, to pay attention and doing as much education of the community as possible. So I want to welcome you both. Can you briefly give us a little bit of a history of this before the, in the past month, I know a lot of things have heated up, but if you could just talk about the history of the silver maple forest.
Right, so I'm actually the president of Green Cambridge, and Green Cambridge has been working on this issue for a long time in partnership with Friends of Alewife Reservation and many other organizations. And this issue has been going on for over 10 years. The land was originally zoned for commercial use, and then it was rezoned for residential use, and now it's being developed under the 40B provisions in the state law.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I know not everybody's familiar with that. But first of all,
this is Cambridge. Everyone knows what 40B
this forest has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So the land was zoned in certain ways, but nothing was ever happening there, and people have grown to love the forest, and it's also an important part of the floodplain here. But before we get to that, 40B is affordable housing, right? So my understanding is that the town of Belmont needs to build more affordable housing.
Right.
And they decided that this would be a lovely spot for it. Well, this is where they're allowing it.
Right, the developer decided that.
Yeah.
And Belmont is still not quite there.
Well, they're not even close, but it's important to understand that 40B doesn't mean that the entire development's affordable housing, right? So in this case, it's 20%, so that's 60 units would be
out of 298.
Out of almost 300 units.
Yes, right.
And obviously we're not opposed to affordable housing. On the contrary, but we shouldn't be trading off in the environment for housing. And in this particular case, it's just a horrible location for housing.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go back to your initial statement, Susan, about the powers that be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the conundrum about what we're trying to do here to rescue this forest. It's if there was one or even two discernible powers that be that we could communicate with and work out a deal, it would make the situation almost possible. But the fact is, most of the property is in Belmont, some of it is in Cambridge, some is in Arlington. Who actually owns and controls these 15 acres sort of changes almost on an hourly basis. I mean, there are ways when you have really good lawyers and you really want to cover your trail, to cover your trail. The development company that has the most notoriety, the O'Neill Company, is based in Pennsylvania. But if you go through all the paperwork, like who appears on the court injunctions, who signs it, it implicates Prudential Real Estate, they're the Cambridge Partnership. I mean, if there was one or two people who would hold still for even a week as the people to communicate and negotiate with, it might make it a little more feasible.
Right. That's true, and it is unfortunately a very messy and complicated situation. But fundamentally, it's really a Belmont decision. And if the town of Belmont decided that they did not want this to be developed, they could do that. But unfortunately, because of the 40B, the developer is able to bypass a lot of the local zoning and local rules, and on the state side, they're not enforcing the requirements on the Clean Water Act and the Wetlands Protection Act. So it is a little bit messy in terms of the jurisdictions to try to get it,
This has been going on for a while, though. I know that
years.
it just has come to a head now.
Right.
But what kinds of legal actions have you all taken to try to protect this area, and why hasn't it gotten anywhere?
Right. So the Belmont citizens have sued twice to try to protect this land, and they filed a third lawsuit under the Clean Water Act. But again, our legal system is not really set up to prevent these kind of developments. So even when you challenge a development, they'll say, okay, well, you have to, build bigger storage or, have better stormwater management. But they still allow the project to go forward. And in this case, it just doesn't make any sense to have any development on that particular spot. And there's really no easy legal way to prevent that, other than, taking the land by eminent domain, which, the town of Belmont so far has
People
not
don't
been willing to do.
usually do that.
Exactly.
So who has owned the property over all this period of time?
Well,
I
it's
mean,
been owned by this shell company called AP Cambridge Partners, which, this O'Neill Development Company has a strong interest or ownership stake in it. But as Rozann indicated, we have documents that show that Prudential Real Estate Investment is involved in this company. We don't understand exactly how they're involved, but they are definitely involved because their vice presidents are signing some of the documents.
So is this recent ownership, or has this been the case for
This has
a
been the
long
case
period?
all along, but we have detected some recent changes in who's signing the documents, and the Prudential vice presidents are signing more prominently some of the documents involved.
So I know that there have been some Cambridge City Council members and others who have paid attention to this and are upset about it, but you're saying that the people in Belmont, the elected officials in Belmont, are not really willing to.
Well, so far they have not. There's one of the selectmen has been very supportive of conservation. And in Cambridge, the city council has been on record, numerous times that they want to preserve this land, but unfortunately, they just don't have jurisdictional power to make that happen. A small portion of the land is in Cambridge, but that is not slated for development anyway. That's going to be preserved as is.
Okay, and the Arlington piece as well?
It's just a sliver from Arlington, so it's really not.
They'll get
relevant.
washover, but they're not. They
Yeah.
don't own that much. They're not that much in
Yeah.
the floodplain. But Will Brownsberger, who represents most, if not all, of Belmont, has twice gotten both the House and Senate to enact legislation that would have prohibited the development.
Well, actually, to buy the land from
to
the
buy
developer.
to buy the land. Okay, I'm
But the
sorry.
governor vetoed
The
it
governor
both times.
vetoed.
Really?
Yeah.
He did because when he took office,
Oh, because
he
of the
took a
affordable
pledge that
housing.
he would
Yes.
never stand. He would always support affordable housing, and it's a
Well,
hard.
he's not up for re-election.
Yeah.
So you think?
Yeah.
Right.
You could
Just
step in
that
and do
reasoning,
what's
it
right
doesn't-
here.
Do what's right, but you can, rethink certain things outside of the box.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, there are creative ideas that people have come up with, we could do a land swap, build the housing somewhere else. But it's just, not the way things are done, and so we just get stuck.
So in the past month, I guess it was when the bulldozers started coming in, right? I believe,
Yeah.
I had Ellen Mass on my show, I think the day that she got the phone call from, I think it was the police department saying, hey,
Right.
just want you to know that this is gonna start happening.
yeah.
So in that period of time, there have been a number of people arrested, one of whom is a teacher here, Amy Myrtle.
Right.
And mostly Cambridge people, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't, there've been injunctions and then those are overturned and.
Right, well, actually, the Belmont folks filed an injunction, and there was a preliminary restraining order, but it only lasted for about 24 hours, and then the injunction was denied, so. But even when the restraining order was enacted, most of the trees had already been cut.
So most of the trees have already been cut.
Yes,
So-
in the area that's to be developed. The overall forest, there's a part of it that's on the Alewife Reservation public land, so that's not, those trees are not being cut. But the area where the
How many
building is
acres have
supposed to
actually
go.
been cut right now?
Well, we don't know, we haven't surveyed it, but it's
Yeah.
about, the property that's being developed is about 7 or 8 acres, and so
Okay.
most of that has been cut.
So what's there to do at this point if it's already been cut?
Well, the thing that's really upsetting to us is that the building permit has yet to be issued. And so why is this developer cutting these trees when we are still arguing over whether this building should be built or
Like
not?
no resident would ever be able to do that. I mean, you have to wait till all your permits are lined up,
Right.
and then maybe you can have a carpenter walk on the
Right.
property. But it's
Right.
like the idea that they already clear cut
Right.
this forest when they have no permission to build on it yet
Yeah,
is
so-
pretty.
So the Belmont folks, again, have filed another lawsuit to basically deny these permits. And so it's entirely possible that this building will never get built, and, you know, trees can be replanted.
Uh-huh.
So we're not giving up.
Even as we're sitting here, the forest is healing itself. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about nature, as it should be.
Mhm.
As soon as it's gone, it's rebuilding.
Okay, so let's talk about the environmental impact of this, because that is, I mean, there's the quality of life issue for all of us who get to live around a forest and get to see all the incredible life there is in that forest. But there are pretty profound environmental issues at stake here.
Right. So there's major flooding concerns in this area, and the trees and that land help to prevent flooding. We also live in the era of climate change, and it makes absolutely no sense to cut down trees that are absorbing carbon dioxide and protecting us from climate change to build more housing. We have plenty of areas in Cambridge and Belmont that have already been clear-cut, you know, hundreds of years ago. And we should be building there, not cutting down more trees. You know, I was just thinking about it this morning, and I thought, it's like poking holes in your lungs, you know, and then people say, well, it's just a tiny little hole. Well, yeah, but if you poke 1,000 of them,
Yeah.
you're gonna
They don't
die,
anymore.
you know? And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're cutting down a forest here, a forest there, a forest here. Pretty soon, we're left with nothing.
So is there no comprehensive statewide conservation vision?
There is, and
There is.
the state of Massachusetts does a lot to preserve forests all over the state. But, you know, this particular forest is very unique to our urban area, right? And so again, we have a lot of development here, and we're planning a lot more. So to take out the last remaining bit of wilderness in this urban area, it's absurd. It really is.
So what can be done at this point?
Well, you know, as I said, we're not giving up, so we're exploring various ways to, you know, preserve the land and ultimately regrow the trees. We have a hearing coming up tomorrow in the Environment Committee of City Council. The Belmont folks, as I said, are suing to keep the land preserved. And we continue to reach out to the developer and say, you know, we are serious. We want to buy the land from you so that it can be preserved forever.
I imagine that land would be pretty expensive.
It is very
You know, I
expensive.
was going to make a sign to hold up today, you know, just like a subliminal message. Anybody really rich who wants to buy this property, you know, beautiful, centrally located, and, you know, between Belmont, Arlington, and Cambridge, wonderful wildlife, fresh running water. Keep it
Right.
as a, you know, as a reserve for
Well,
eternity.
There
And
you go.
money, anybody want to buy it? Well,
We're a very wealthy community.
Yes.
And we can afford to make those choices and say, you know, we'd rather have that remain as forest. We'll build affordable housing, you know, somewhere else. We do that all the time.
And Belmont has another area to do such a thing? I mean, I don't know, are they committed to Belmont? I mean, it's Belmont that needs affordable housing,
I
right?
can't speak for Belmont, but, you know, again, because of where this property is located, you know, it's really a multi-community issue. You know, it's not, I mean, Belmont has the immediate jurisdiction, but all of us are affected by those decisions.
it's right off Route 2. I mean, it's so close to that whole new development area in Cambridge.
Right.
And that's really, I think, what the attraction is.
Right, I mean, some of it is kind of silly, you know, the way we regulate this stuff, like we say, well, you know, each individual town has to have a certain
Right.
percentage of affordable housing. Well, actually, we can build a lot more affordable housing in Cambridge much more easily for various reasons than we can do in Belmont. But there's no way for Cambridge to give them credit, you know, so there's no easy way for us to say, we'll build some affordable housing here, and then, you know, you preserve the forest, you know? And that's just dumb. I mean, it's just
There should be a
dumb
way.
ways that we
Just
organize our society, and we should do better.
Although I wonder if there'd be some folks in Cambridge who would say, like NIMBY, kind of like, don't build your affordable housing in my backyard, you know?
Maybe, but we
truth
do
is-
it all the time.
Yeah.
There are like at least 5 new units going
Right.
up in that neighborhood, even as we speak.
Exactly.
That people are concerned about the impact on traffic, on congestion, on safety for kids going to school, because there are 2 schools, and I mean, they're all but that is going on. I mean, it is in our backyard. This is not our backyard. This is a unique urban forest, and is the backyard of many animals.
Right.
Can we actually take a
Plants,
look
yes.
at this?
Yeah.
Maybe you can help me. Is this a good map to look at, or?
Yeah, Google Maps will work fine.
Okay, so I'll let you drive,
Oh.
and you can show us where this is, and can you see?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the, is there any way to zoom in, or?
This is a satellite map. Maybe we should go to.
If we just go to Google Maps, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be able to zoom into it.
Oh, this is on the website, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And this information, is available on the friendsofalewife.org website, Belmont Coalition. I mean, there are lots of ways to get more information about what's going on.
I'm sure you're all really enjoying watching me
Yeah.
not
This is really
type well.
exciting. Is
So-
there a geek here?
Yeah.
Anybody?
We're gonna
Gee, I
let,
wonder.
Quentin
Okay.
find this. And
Yeah.
so Rozann, maybe you can
Yes.
talk about what's happening tomorrow while Quentin's looking for this.
Tomorrow, Councilor Leland Chung is holding a public hearing with his committee, which is the Committee on Health and Environment, at our request. And we specifically asked for this because there is scientific testimony that has not yet been heard. Some of it has been heard. I think 3 of the 5 scientists who are going to be speaking did present their material at a Belmont town meeting last week. There are 2 more scientists who are presenting for this, and Cambridge needs to also hear what this information is. I'm strongly hoping that a number of elected officials from other towns will show up, and specifically hoping that the governor will send a representative from his office to witness what's going to be said. I mean, these are people who are both invested personally through their scientific backgrounds and what's going on, and people who are hired because of their expertise to do these studies, and are not necessarily sympathetic or even knowledgeable about why they're doing these studies. And it's so clear from all these different points of view why this is not the place to clear cut or to
Right.
build.
So I have heard that there have been studies, and so why is nobody paying attention to the studies?
Well, they are.
They
but,
are.
But again, how do you connect those studies and those facts to actual intervention in this development process when it's privately owned land and the developer is claiming exemptions under 40B? It's very
Sort of
challenging.
like there's this nice little bubble that protects
Yeah.
the irrationality of what's
That's
going
right.
on.
That's exactly right. So I do have it here on the map.
Okay.
So just to orient yourself a little bit, this is the LYFT station here. So this whole area, and this is Route 2, of course, so this is going west out of Cambridge towards Belmont. And this large green area here is the Alewife Reservation, and this area here is the proposed development site. So, there's parts of the forest here that are in public land. And then this part here is in Cambridge, which is also part of the property, but is not going to be developed. So, as you can see, this drains right into Little Pond. And you can't actually see Little River in this map for some reason, but there's a small river here that connects out to the Mystic River. So there's a lot of flooding that happens already on this side of Little Pond when there's heavy rains. And so one of the concerns is that when we put a big building here, we get a lot of stormwater runoff that goes into the pond and increases the flooding here, which, obviously is a nuisance for the neighbors who live here.
Right.
I know of 2 people who've already put their houses on the market
Yeah.
who are in
Who are on
Arlington
that-
over there,
on
yeah.
that side.
Yeah,
Quick before- yes.
including one of the Belmont police officers
Is that
who was
true? Was
arresting
there?
people.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Oh
she
my
said,
gosh.
I'm moving because I'm worried about flooding.
Wow.
I mean, and the truth is that if you go down, like I know where I live, which is on the other side of Fresh Pond, we were told this is a floodplain. I mean, when we bought the house, I mean, they're very clear. So it's like what silver maples do. They're called, swamp maples.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Let's talk about that, yeah.
opportunistic.
Okay.
There's a lot of water, and they have, just a wonderful root system that holds the water there. My next door neighbor, may she rest in peace, when she moved out, a developer tore down the house and put 2, conjoined units right next to us. In the process, there were 3 trees in the backyard. They took one of the big silver maples out because, how many trees do you need?
Right.
Where there had never been any water problems at all on our street or anything, the basement of that house had 3 feet of water in it after the first real storm. I mean, luckily, I don't know why we didn't, but it was like totally directive, sort of like the tree was getting back at the property. What? You take me out because you want to build a house? I'll show you. There had never been any problem there. One, big old silver maple. I mean, they're really very useful. They're not great in terms of like their branches, which tend to go flying, a lot in
All
storms.
trees have them.
All trees are like that, but they're,
That's why the trees should be in a forest.
that's why it should be in a
Not
forest,
next
and you
to
don't,
people's houses.
that's right, or in their roofs, but I
Right.
mean, but it's really amazing how important their job is and how well they do it for that whole area.
So now this area's been clear cut and it's, so we are likely to see the impact of that immediately.
Yes, unfortunately.
We did. I mean,
In
just
this
the-
past rain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the past rain, there was like a lot more flooding reported under bridges, and low-lying houses had,
Hmm.
yeah, and that's just the start. I mean, it's just, I mean, the first day, maybe it was the second day, I can't remember. I mean, the other thing that's happening here is you're bifurcating the domiciles of the animals who live there, and you need a buffer zone. They need to know where they are. So all of a sudden, you come in with these big trucks and you chop out an area, and the animals don't know what to do, and they run across the road. I mean, 2 beautiful deer were killed like the first day that this happened. And more are going to follow. I mean, it's just because as soon as should they decide or get permit to actually build, as soon as they bring that equipment in and start doing more construction, more damage, more animals will die. They won't know to go back here. They'll just go.
Yeah, it's a complete disregard for the natural wildlife that lives there, you know, and what we're basically saying is, well, we don't care, right? We need more housing, and the rest of nature has to make room. Well, we can't do that forever.
So assuming that there are people who care, what can they
Yes.
do? Let's talk about what people can do.
Well, the main thing is to get involved.
Mhm.
You know, let your elected officials know that you're concerned about this issue and that you want to see a different outcome here. You know, as I said, we have this hearing tomorrow. People can attend that, educate themselves, understand better what's going on. We have a petition on silvermapleforest.org that people can sign. You know, again, it's really important now that people raise their voices and say, we do care.
Mhm.
Because the reason this stuff happens is nobody says anything.
Right.
You know, or not enough people say
Right.
anything, and so other things get priority.
So if people go to silvermapleforest.org, there are frequently other activist kinds of things that are happening right there. There are
Right.
demonstrations, there are people standing in front of machines and things like
Right,
that, right? If you feel like getting arrested, I'm sure there's an opportunity
You
for
should,
that.
Plenty of
wherever you
opportunity
go,
for that,
take
yes.
some pink marking ribbon with you, and you can tie it around yourself so they won't chop you down or anything that you want to say. That was, I think, our first action actually on the property, is we went in, because were marking the trees that they weren't going to cut, so a few of us went into the woods with rolls of these and just tied them around everything that we could do.
That's how they were marking the ones to stay?
Yes,
And that's-
so we
that's-
just, and there were
I
like
like that.
30 turkeys that were all congregated in one area, and I just couldn't get any of them to stand still.
Oh.
And I heard they're pretty mean anyway, but
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
so when we did the honk parade, and people who were supporting the Silver Maple Forest, we all had pink ribbons around us, but it's pathetic that that's what it's come down to.
Right. So there's quite a bit of civil disobedience happening, which is why people
Yes.
are getting arrested. You are not eating solid food in protest, and is
Yes.
anybody paying attention to that?
My family is really upset that I'm doing this. I decided sort of, when I knew that I couldn't, just because of what's going on in my personal life, risk being arrested. I mean, we're doing this to get attention, to show we are really serious about what's going on. And I figured the only thing I could do myself is to say, I'm going to stop eating. Well, I think probably if I had been living alone without, people who care about my health, I probably would have stopped eating. But then my
We
friends, well,
wouldn't like to do that.
at least take liquid. So I get about 800 calories of liquid a day, but I haven't had solid food except for one muffin for my son in 10 days.
I'm under the impression you don't eat that much anyway, but.
There's that rumor, but in fact, I chew many crunchy things, and
I
I'm very
see.
much missing my daily
Yeah.
popcorn
Yeah.
and my whole wheat bagel.
Mm.
Yes.
We won't talk about that.
No.
All right, so try to come to the hearing tomorrow. It's from 3 to 5 p.m. at 831
831, which is
Mass Ave.
City
Inspectional Service.
Hall is undergoing renovation, so
It's next door.
and it's
In
in
the
the basement. We'll
basement.
have signs.
Yeah, and that's a really small room, so I think it would be really impressive if.
To have not
Right.
enough room for the people who show
Exactly.
up. Yes.
And there'll be a demonstration tomorrow morning as well at 7:30.
out,
Out by the
it's on
forest.
Acorn Drive, right?
Yeah, actually, this particular one will start at the Staples parking lot in the Alewife
Uh-huh.
shopping area, and then people will walk to the forest.
Okay, so is that happening every Tuesday morning? Because it seems like it's been almost every week.
We've had very regular
Yeah.
activities, and this particular one will probably continue on a weekly basis, and we'll
Mhm.
have other ones as well on other days.
Okay. So silvermapleforest.org is a place to go for more information and to sort of keep up with what's happening. I understand that the Belmont Police have been very understanding, and is that,
We can't go so far as say really supportive, but I mean, I found this with the security guards too. When we actually stood there and talked to them and explained, you know, I the one guard who didn't throw his cell phone at me or try to run us over, I talked to the other guard, you know, and I just said, look, you're doing your job, we're trying to do ours.
That's right.
I said, you understand what we're doing, and the guy actually, after hearing what it was, I said, will you wear a ribbon? He said, no, but I'll take one. And he actually put it in his pocket,
Yeah.
you know. And the police are, you know, please, we don't want to arrest you.
Right.
Please, can you, you know, like this is, okay, one more warning, please. you know you're trespassing, okay, and one more warning, please. I mean, it's such a no-brainer that anybody who's there, you know, who will take the time to listen to what is actually happening, what atrocities are being created there, how much destruction, wanton destruction. People are sympathetic.
Mhm.
It's just not enough people know, not enough people are showing up to make a difference.
Right.
so that's what we're trying to do now.
Yes.
And hopefully people out there will join this action and go to silvermapleforest.org to see what's going on every day. And if you have some time, go out and show your support for those who have been working on this for a long time. Thank you both for coming. I really appreciate
Thank you
it.
for doing this,
And
Susan.
next week we'll have Susan Pacheco on from the Senior Center, Cambridge Council on Aging. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.